This is Ilse Evelyn Veer-Smit, and I'm Dorothy Read, and together we wrote a book. Actually, it's Ilse's story. She lived it, and she told it, and I wrote it. Ilse was born in the Dutch East Indies, and Ilse was born on Java, but she was not Javanese. She had two Dutch grandfathers, which made her Dutch. And it also put her in the privileged class in that colonial society. But that all changed with World War II, when the Japanese came in and took over her island nation. Ilse and her mother and her three younger siblings ended up in a Japanese concentration camp for women and children. It was called Camp Halmaheira. It had originally been built as a ghetto for coolie laborers. Where they lived, there were 39 women and children in this tiny little 3-bedroom house.
Yeah.
And then your mother was ordered to be the
Kepala Kongsi.
Kepala Kongsi.
Yeah.
Like the supervisor?
Yeah, like a supervisor.
Yeah. She made sure everybody abided by the rules, and she wanted to give the Japanese guards no reason to come in and beat them and mistreat them.
Right.
Living conditions were terrible. There were no working toilets in these little houses, so they had to go all the way across the compound to do their bathrooming. And I guess that brings us to the story that you want to tell.
Yeah. One night, my mother and my little brother left the house to go to the public restrooms. That gave Mrs. H the chance to get her tarot cards out of hiding, and she called all the women in the house, the adults, to come and listen to what the cards has to say. But at the same time, the guards were passing the window where she was going to do the card work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they saw it, and they came in, hitting all the women and tell them to get together. And then he made sure that they go to the Campitai quarters.
Wow.
I ran as fast as my legs could carry me to meet her and to beg her not to come home. And I told her why. So she said, Ilse, don't worry about it. I was not there, so I could not prevent it. Just don't worry about it. And when we went home, a soldier was already waiting for her. So he grabbed her arm and pushed her ahead of himself. At a distance, I followed them until we came to the headquarters. There was a big banyan tree in front of it, which I could hide behind. And she got pushed to the ground. And the guard said, "Are you guilty?" No, she got up and she said, "No, I'm not guilty. I wasn't there. So I could not prevent it." And he beat her, and down she went again. And again, and again, and again. In the meantime, Marijke, my younger sister, came to me, and she put her hand into mine. So we stood there together, watching how she got tormented. Then all of a sudden, the samurai went up to hit her again, and Marijke screamed, which brought the lights on us. And I could see that my mother just looked at us. Then she said, "I'm guilty," and collapsed. So we were sent home. The next morning, I saw in the distance the women coming one by one to the house. They were all black and blue, swollen faces, and some of them didn't even have any more teeth left. They were just totally knocked out. So when everybody was finally home, my mother wasn't there. So I asked the ladies what happened to my mother, but they didn't know. So I cried. We all cried. Then the next morning early, I got Marijke and Renee, and I was carrying Edith, the baby, going to the headquarters and hoping that our begging and crying would warm their hearts. But it didn't. We were sent home. And then a little bit later, somebody from the headquarters came down to tell me that my mother was in solitary confinement, which I thought. I said, why? She didn't do anything. Why not Mrs. H? She was the one that did what she did. But then the soldier says, but there's one thing that you can do. You can bring her every day clean clothes. But you're not supposed to smile or cry or talk to her, because that means more punishment for her. So that morning, I grabbed some clean clothes for her and I went. And when I saw her in that little hut she was sitting in, I could only see her face. And it was very hard for me not to smile or talk or even cry, because that would mean more punishment for her. So there was a little slit under the door, so where I could put the clean clothes out and the dirty ones in. And this went on for some time. So after a while doing this, one day she looked at me. We learned to talk to each other with our eyes. And that's when she was telling me one day to look in the dirty clothes, and told me that she had put something in there. So after I put the clean clothes in, the dirty clothes out, and I went home and I started washing and washing, but I couldn't find anything. And I thought, maybe I misunderstood her. But I didn't, because all of a sudden when I came to the seam of the skirt, it was right in there, and rolled up handkerchief came out. A handkerchief that I made when I was 6 years old. And she embroidered a letter on it.
Where had she gotten the
Yeah, she must have had a needle on her lapel.
And how did she get thread?
She got the thread out of her skirt. My darling children, have you been good? Be loving to each other. Watch over baby sister. Does little brother enjoy daycare? Does Mika go also? Pray that mom comes home soon.
Pray that Mom comes home soon. Till I see you again, darlings. Your loving mother. When it was all over, the war was over, she was safe. Nobody wanted to hear it. They said, if you have problems, keep them to yourself. They said, don't live in the past, it just makes it worse. So the name of our book is End the Silence, because Ilse has truly now ended her silence.